Hello my soccer universe, and so the Conference League season and the European season for LASK ends winless. It's kind of disappointing. But if I talk about LASK and everything that happened yesterday in the Conference League, and honestly there were so many crazy things. It was actually quite a fun evening. I apologize for publishing this video a little bit later, but I wanted to wait for the draw. I had to make a few calculations. Work also wanted to have me last work day. Yeah. Vacation is starting right now. And so yeah, this comes a little bit later, but I hope it's still very much valid. It's not running away on us because the playoffs are in February. But yes, LASK again winless, again only a 1-1 draw against Reykjavik. On the face of it, another disappointing result. I though have to say the performance was much better, and also LASK were playing more or less with a last-ditch squad. He had only 3 substitutes on the bench. Many injuries, people sick and so on, and 2 keepers. So tells you this was very much makeshift. And the young guy Micic that he brought on in defense was actually one of the high points of the entire game. That's it. I think the performance was alright with a little bit of luck. You would have won this one, but it also encapsulated perfectly how this season went for LASK. I mean, there were so many what ifs, but in the end you were undoing yourself with stupid mistakes like the one when Boharde gives away the penalty. So yeah, don't want to say much about it. I already made an entire video on how LASK really annoyed me this half year, how bad it was. So you can watch my thoughts there. I just feel that this was such a chance miss, especially when I see that every single opponent that LASK played has qualified for the knockout phase. And you were in pot 1. I mean, this was laid out for you. I would say at least 3 of these opponents that you played, if not 4, are not as good as LASK. It's just that you were in such a funk, and that's a huge missed opportunity. And I'm just looking just a little further down the Danube. Rapid, brilliant performance for them, beating Copenhagen and actually salvaging the European coefficient for Austria at the moment. And while Rapid is an eternal rival for me, I was actually quite happy with their performance, and I want to congratulate them here in all formality already. This was really good, and it was an important win for them. Also came on the back of this horrible thing that happened to their striker Burgstaller, who was just knocked down and has an internal skull fracture because of that. That definitely galvanized the team. I'm fairly certain, and yes, Copenhagen is not the Copenhagen from last season, but still, it was a really strong performance and very good for Austria. But as I said, there are so many other things happening, but I really want to start with a quick review of the last game. LASK and the Conference League campaign with a 1-1 draw to Vikingur at home. Again, not a win. In fact, every single home game LASK drew, and in most of those they were better and probably should have won at least 2 if not 3 of these. And every single away game they lost. So it's a really horrendous record in Europe, especially when you go into this season with high hopes. So that was definitely a disappointment, and the entire game against Vikingur was basically a mirror image of how that season went. You maybe dominate the game at the beginning a little bit. Yes, you had a last-ditch makeshift squad with only 3 substitutes on the bench, and one of those was kind of even injured as well. You then invite the opponents in your half. You give away a stupid penalty because you stretch out your arm and the ball comes here. It was a penalty. Sigurd Paulsen converts, and Vikingur, who wanted to get at least a point off Linz, absolutely celebrating on that one. And they were working hard. However, LASK hit back within 3 minutes. It was actually a really beautiful attack where Schul plays through defenders onto Entrup. Goalie comes out. He plays it back to Ljubicic. Puts it into the net. Then Ljubicic has 2 or 3 chances to actually convert. Doesn't do it. One, he probably waited too long. The other one, he was too fast. You know, these are the things and how it's going. As I also said, Vikingur hit the crossbar with a header once, but it was definitely more LASK in there, especially after the goal. Those 10 minutes, they were really dominant. They thought they had scored the go-ahead goal early in the second half. However, Schul in the build-up was offside. It was so nice. Long ball, Schul heads it over to Entrup, heads it into goal, and that would have been really a morality boost. But then Vikingur really staunchly defending, relatively rough as well. The rain started coming, and I also have to mention the fans were back because there was an agreement on the ticket prices, so there was a little bit of support, but there were not too many fans. I think it was the lowest crowd that LASK ever attracted at a competitive match in the new stadium. Also tells you kind of the mood, how everything was, and the weather. not good as well. Yes, tries they might, LASK cannot really find another chance, and Stojkovic, who had come on, even gave away a pretty big one late on for Vikingur. It ends 1-1. Vikingur celebrating, LASK thanking the fans for being back, but yeah, recover now, and then you have to get started. We need a great spring. Otherwise, this season is a completely lost one. With a win, Apoel would have had a great chance to qualify for the top 8. However, shortly after they take the lead, Astana managed an equalizer, and so Apoel are only in the seeded pot for the playoffs. Johnny Cardoso gives Betis the 1 goal for the win over Helsinki, meaning that Betis at least is in a seeded spot, however on a precarious path on potentially meeting Chelsea relatively soon. In a nervy match because neither team really wanted to lose but potentially needed to win to move on. Borat and Omonia play out a 0-0 draw. It's enough for both of these. Both are unseeded teams in the draw. And with a true do-or-die game, Celje beat the New Saints, who also could have moved on, with a win 3-2. They were twice down, however twice find the equalizer through Edmilson in the first half, both times long ball, but once assisted by the New Saints. And then late in the second half, Jack finds the winner for Celje, who move on. Başakşehir were sitting on the bubble and needed a win at Cercle Bruges, who themselves want to avoid defeat and maybe even get a win to secure a top 8 spot. It ends in a 1-1 draw. Piontek gave Başakşehir the 1-0 in the 74th minute, then equalized by Brunner in the 82nd. Then, as Başakşehir were pushing for the go-ahead goal, even the goalie came up, had a big chance, but it was saved by the Cercle goalie. 1-1, Cercle managed 8th spot, Başakşehir out. No such worries for Chelsea, who are just steamrolling the competition with a second string squad. I cannot overstate this. Shamrock Rovers actually had a chance for a top 8 spot if they would have gotten something out of that game. However, they lose 5-1. Magoo gave very early on Chelsea already a lead. Then Pom gets the equalizer. Deflected shot for Shamrock Rovers. Wild celebrations, quickly dashed because Goo reestablished the lead. Then Dewsbury Hall, and again Goo completing his hat-trick in the first half. Orisel game. Kukurea gets the 5th one for Chelsea. I keep saying it, this is Chelsea's competition to lose. One of the 2 top games on this evening was definitely Djurgårdens against Legia, largely impacted by a huge pyro display by the Djurgården fans. It was fog and it had to be delayed. However, Djurgården didn't mind as much because they took a 2-0 halftime lead with very similar goals, but Ngoyen and Humet from a little bit further out of the box. Actually quite interesting shots. Zolek gets one back for Legia early in the second half, but Oslund in the 76th reestablishes the lead for Djurgården. Djurgården finishing 5th spot. Legia with that loss also still in a 7th spot, very much in the round of 16, but probably would have expected more after their great start. They finished the league phase with 2 losses. With the win over Petrokub, Hearts had a realistic chance of advancing, however they do not manage it. Platica in the 21st minute gave Petrokub the lead, and this is second to last Petrokub. They turned around the second half. Wilson and Spittle in the 70th minute gave Hearts the much needed 2-1 lead. However, Muderos with a penalty equalizes. Hearts cannot find the winner. It's also not enough for Petrokub, who finish in last place. Fortunately, there's one team worse than LASK. And we had a somewhat of a knockout game also between Heidenheim and St. Gallen. Heidenheim mostly dominating the game. I would say for around 60-65 minutes, Heidenheim were much better. Had the lead through Teuerkauf. Probably should have doubled that lead. But St. Gallen then knew with a win, they will qualify for the next stage. Heidenheim wanted to at least get a point to secure the seeded spot in the Conference League. Stanic gets the equalizer for St. Gallen. Then the Swiss are pushing, cannot find a winning goal, and so they're out. And Heidenheim move on just about in the seeded spots in the playoffs. Both Jagiellonia and Olimpia Ljubljana were more or less through. They play out a 0-0 draw. I think a win will have given Jagiellonia the direct route to the quarterfinal. However, Ljubljana didn't want to risk being not on the seeded side as well. When Cosgrove scored in the 74th minute for Larne, I couldn't believe it. LASK were so close of finishing last in this league phase because Larne had not won anything. They get their first ever win, the first ever win for a Northern Irish team against a Ghent side that had more of the game but didn't create much. Really disappointing loss for the Belgians, who with a win would have directly qualified for the round of 16. This way they're even unseeded playoff team. In a duel of two high flyers, Lugano and Paphos play out a 2-2 draw. Paphos had the lead in the first half. Lugano turned it around. Paphos find a very late equalizer. Lugano is already in a round of 16 and Paphos is a seeded team in the playoff. Probably the craziest game and a straight knockout game happened in Norway between Molde and Mlada Boleslav. There were 4 lead changes in this game. Suchi gave Mlada an early lead, however, Ila and a really crazy Kral own goal give Molde lead at the halftime. Then Kuse and a wonderful shot by Vidra. Within 3 minutes, Mlada had turned it around. They're ahead. They would go through to the playoff, but then in the 64th minute they concede an equalizer and in stoppage time, Stanevik gets the winner for Molde. A draw would not have been enough for either of these teams, so that winner was very timely. Another contender for goal of the evening came in Athens. It was the 4th goal by Ioannidis. A great lob from far outside of the box to make it 4-0. It was always one-way traffic. Panathinaikos actually one of the seeded playoff teams and I think the one to watch. And I already said in the opener, Rapid get a rather impressive 3-0 against Copenhagen at home. The game started slow, however Rapid thought they had a penalty, then through VAR it was moved outside side of the box, but before the half they ratcheted up the pressure. Copenhagen have a really hard time defending the ball, then this all results in a corner kick where again Copenhagen cannot get the ball away and Bellio in very eye-catching manner puts it into the net, gives Rapid the lead. And then early in the second half Wurmbrand makes it 2-0 in the 51st minute and himself 64th minute expertly converts. It's a young striker to make it 3-0. Rapid were a few times actually closer to the 4th goal. Really impressive performance, very indicative of how Rapid have been performing for most of the time in Europe this year. Maybe not in the last month though. Another crazy knockout game happened in Bačka Topola. It's a 4-3 for the home side. However, after 50 minutes they were done and dusted. Noah had a 3-1 win and they actually would have qualified with that win. But then Djakovac first misses a penalty but converts then a minute later. 2 minutes later he gets the equalizer and then Pantovic in the 81st minute. So with less than 10 minutes TSC totally turned that game around and qualify in 24th spot. Really crazy one. And lastly, the top duel of the Conference League. It was 2v3. Vitória de Guimarães actually dominating Fiorentina most of the time, but they only managed a 1-1 draw at home. Gustavo had given Vitória the lead. And I would say up until the 60th minute, Fiorentina really couldn't handle Vitória de Guimarães, especially in the first half. However, they get them better in the game, make a few substitutions that give a little bit more solidity, especially Moise Ken was very instrumental there. And in the 87th minute, they get the equalizer, where twice it could have been an offside if the player didn't touch the ball, and so Mandragora in the 87th minute can put it into the net. Vitória de Guimarães 2, Fiorentina finish in 3rd place. So here's the final table of the league phase. Chelsea completely dominated this Conference League, winning every single game, 26 goals scored, 5 conceded. They're 4 points ahead of the second place team in Vitória de Guimarães. Slight surprise, however, they have played a really good campaign. And then Fiorentina, who have the second best goal differential. Yeah, thank you, LASK. And Rapid in a very strong 4th place. They were 9th ahead of this round, so it tells you how good it was. Djurgården finishing 5th, Lugano, Legia and Cercle, all straight to the round of 16. The seeded teams in the playoff are Jagiellonia, the Polish Championship, Shamrock Rovers, a little bit of a surprise, then 2 separate teams in Apoel and Paphos. Panathinaikos and Ljubljana come next, and then 2 teams from big leagues in Betis and Heidenheim, just making it into the seeded spots. Unseeded, a little bit surprising also, Ghent and Copenhagen, and the way it is, those 2 will have to play Betis and Heidenheim, so very loaded, and the winners of those play against 1 or 2, so you can see that the top seeds actually will get a really tough draw because of that. It's not always good to finish top. And then the 6 teams that rounded out, Vikingur, Borat, again 2 opponents that LASK were facing, Celje, Omonia, Molde and Bačka Topola, just about, because they scored more goals, they go past Hearts. And the unpleasant part is my LASK 35th. Ahead of the draw, here the favorites, Chelsea, Fiorentina, Betis still, and then Vitória de Guimarães, Rapid move up in 5th, Panathinaikos, Lugano, Cercle Bruges rounding out the top 8. Chelsea, then maybe Fiorentina, and then the rest. Although, if Betis could get it together, I could see them being dangerous, maybe also Vitória de Guimarães. Well, since LASK is not part of the draw anymore and is already eliminated, I'm switching now to Fiorentina, at least for this video. And let's talk about the pots of the draw. I think UEFA did it quite interesting. I mean, they could have gone that the 9th seed plays against 24 and so on and so forth. But they said, you know, let's take it group by group and then we'll randomize every 2 spots. And that also gives us a very nice bracket that still preserves the structure of the overall bracket, but still moves it around a little bit as well. And so we had that, for instance, the yellow teams, Jagiellonian and Shamrock, had to play either Molde or Bačka-Topolo. So I made it even with color coding. Apoel Paphos against Celje Omonia, 3 separate teams in there. Then Vikingur and Borac against Panathinaikos and Ljubljana. And lastly, we had Betis and Heidenheim against Ghent and Copenhagen, which we already said, really, really tough. Here's the draw. There's not too much moving around. We see Jagiellonian played TSC, Shamrock against Molde, we had Apoel against Celje, we had Paphos against Omonia, Cypriot duel, we had Panathinaikos against Vikingur, we had Ljubljana against Borac, we had Betis against Ghent, and Heidenheim against Copenhagen. The latter one, that's probably the most interesting one, although I even would say the Betis game is not that bad. Who is the biggest favorites? Panathinaikos against Vikingur. Vikingur, when they were playing, will probably not even have started their season, so that should be a relatively easy game, I would say. We can also look at it in the terms of the overall bracket already. And you see, we have the pairings, and below are always 2 teams. They play against either one of those 2. So the winner of Ghent against Betis will play either Chelsea or Vitória de Guimarães. Same thing for Copenhagen and Heidenheim. Play either one of these 2 teams. For me, most interesting is that Rapid can play either against the winner of Vikingur and Panathinaikos, so one of the biggest fan grouping friendships, or they can also play against 2 other LASK opponents, Boris Banluka and Olympia Ljubljana. I would say they would prefer the latter one. And then we have, of course, at least one Cypriot team moving on, playing against either Lugano or Djurgårdens. Also quite interesting. And then in the middle part, there is also the chance for a Polish matchup between Jagiellonia and Legia. That could be really, really dicey and interesting as well. The draw did not change all too much about the overall chances of winning the competition. It's still Chelsea, Fiorentina, and then more or less the rest. However, we see exactly Bruges slightly ahead of Lugano. Heidenheim and Legia have moved up at the expense of Ghent. That concludes now the fall season for the Conference League. League phase is over. We will come back on the 13th of February, where the first legs will be played, and then a week later on the 20th, the second legs will be played. So it's all on the same day, same time, even for now, although that might be changed now, but all of them are played at 9 o'clock for now. Any case, please let me know what you thought about yesterday's games. Most importantly, there was some real crazy stuff in there. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for my favorite team. Then also, let me know who do you think will win this competition. It is Chelsea. I know that already. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. Talk to you soon about more things in my soccer universe. Bye! Hey there! I really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, here are some videos and playlists that you may enjoy too. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the little bell icon so you get notified whenever something happens in my soccer universe. And with that, have a wonderful day. Bye!